Hello everyone, how are you? First of all, just raise your hand. Thank you. I think that means I have control of the room. Raise your other hand. No, it never works the second time. Oh, thank you, thank you. It never really works the second time, but anyway, so here we go. Who here, you guys are all devs, aren't you? How many people are web devs? No one? Hey, well, okay, cool. Well, I'll speak to you. How many people in here regularly work with SEO agencies or consultants? No one. Who has met someone who does SEO before? I can only see a small portion. Right, that's better, that's better. Now, I want to know how they explained SEO to you. Did they explain it as a dark art full of weird, mystical things? Raise your hand if that's what they told you. Yeah, they're lying bastards. Oh, sorry, can I swear?
Please do.
Yeah, SEO is not a dark art. I've been working in SEO since about 1998. So back then I used to build and colo servers and try and figure out things like bind and all that oldie stuff. And one of the questions I regularly get asked by people at events like this, or when I'm speaking to prospective clients, is how I stay up to date, because Google constantly moves the goalposts. That's not my words, it's the words of people I frequently speak to. And the truth is, Google hasn't moved the goalposts since day one. They've just got better at sniffing out the dog shit, basically. So, where does that leave devs? Well, first of all, I've got to say some of our biggest successes come from working very closely and collaborating with developers. I should explain who I am first. I'm Andrew Lawson. I am Chief Human at YesEO. We're an SEO agency based in Ipswich, and we work with anyone who'll give us money, mostly. So why do we love devs? Well, for one thing, you guys make our job much, much easier. There's only so much we can do in SEO before we get to a point that we need to speak to a dev. I have never yet worked on a website that didn't need some input from somebody like Alex here, or I don't know anyone else in the room, so I'm going to say any one of you wonderful people. So why do I think not only devs are great to work with, but why do I think Google loves devs working on websites? It's for one really simple reason. Good SEO naturally is the same as good practice. And I'm yet to meet a developer who doesn't believe in good practice. I've been told off by Alex for doing what she called, I think it was cowboy coding, you know, trying to prod bits of code on a live site. I don't do that very often, I promise. But on the whole, every dev I know is very strict to think about things like Git pushes, you know, good coding. I believe not commenting in code, is that right? Is that now a thing, that it's unprofessional to leave comments? Okay, so that's why Google loves devs, because you all adhere to good practice. And that's all SEO really is. It's a reflection of good practice that already exists within a company. I was at an event today explaining why SEO should be easy if you're doing good stuff already. And it's because the whole algorithm, everything's set up to recognize authority, to recognize authoritative voices. And authoritative voices can't be conjured out of thin air. Even with bad SEO, you can't convince Google that you're really important and you're doing really good things, because they will find you. That's what that sniffing out the dog shit thing's about. So if we're working with a good company that's doing good stuff and is already established as an authority in their world, in their niche, and they're working with a good developer, or we're bringing a good developer on board, basically our job in SEO gets very, very easy. But sometimes I'm asked exactly how a developer can make a big impact on a website. What is it really? Because there's often a lot of talks given by people like me, well, no one's quite like me, I don't think, given like me, that skirt around and just talk about kind of vague good practices and without really getting into detail. So I'm going to dive into a bit of detail now. Now, I apologise, some of these things I'm going to mention are old hat. SEO is evolving, as I mentioned earlier, but a lot of it, the good practice, has been around for a long, long time. So first of all, accessibility. Now, this is still something that we have to fix on a lot of websites. And it can be as basic as missing alt tags, you know, the little tooltip that is there for blind people using screen readers. It can be as simple as not making every title on the page H1. It can be as simple as making sure your tab order works, so when you tab through on the keyboard, it automatically goes along to the right place on the menu. These are all accessibility things, and we do still have to fix them. Less and less, I've got to say. Next up, responsive websites. I am a little surprised I'm still having to use the phrase responsive websites, but we are still taking on clients whose websites flat up just do not work on mobile. There's some argument about, you know, whether you should set sizes still in pixels or EM or blah blah blah, all that stuff. That's something that largely, as an SEO, I don't get too involved in. I just trust to good developers like Alex just to make it magically work, and thank you very much for doing so. So there's a lot of talk over the last few years about web core vitals on websites. And this is very much where a good developer can make the difference between a site ranking quickly and struggling and fighting a little bit. What I'm trying to paint a picture of here is a very healthy, well-written website is much easier to rank with basically less pushing from the SEO side. So we fix things like that with speeding up websites. That could be just being on a better host, and quite a lot of the time we do just have to move websites from, you know, one of those shared cPanel hosts that is £1.89 for 18 months and falls over every few minutes. In fact, we've ranked sites just by moving them to like SiteGround or WP Engine, or current favourite is anything on Amazon S3, because that stuff just flies, especially if you can build is it headless? Call it a headless CMS site. But increasingly CDNs, I'm going to say increasingly CDNs are becoming important. They've always become important, but I think for a long time they weren't terribly accessible, and it wasn't something that was within the budget a lot of business owners and website owners. But certainly using a good host or using Cloudflare or anything like that is bringing CDNs into very much the affordable category, and it can make a huge difference. Now, image sizes. This is one of those things that I don't think anyone in here is going to be guilty of. But every client we work with, we do a scan using a tool called Screaming Frog, looking for large images on the site. And surprisingly often we'll find a screenshot that's 30 or 40 megabytes. So I know I don't have to tell you guys this, but yeah, don't do that. Just don't. So, core web vitals. I'll be honest, as an SEO, some of the core web vitals thing is a bit of a mystery to me, but something I do know is that we're having to spend more time speaking to developers to improve the core web vitals scores. In fact, I think I'm probably the person in this room who knows least about core web vitals, but it's because we always align with very good devs. So something else which I don't know is often mentioned between devs and SEOs, and that's the code to text ratio on a website. Now, some websites like Wix, which we won't actually work with Wix because this problem is that bad on Wix. Basically, the more code you're using to display text on the website, the code to text ratio, that's becoming an increasing problem. Yes, we've got the powerful servers to kind of shove through all that code and make it work, but the sites that are ranking best at the moment are the sites that are incredibly efficient, the sites that don't need, well, in WordPress, 112 plugins to do the job of 2 things. You know, it's really all about efficiency at the moment. But the most important thing, you can forget all of that, the most important thing when we're working with devs is focusing on what we call data clarity. So this is making sure that all the parts of the website that we want Google to be able to fully munch on and fully digest and understand are as easy for Google to see as possible. So there's a number of tools which, again, you probably know better than I do, that you can use to test to see how Google is crawling your site. Now, this area has changed a bit in the last couple of years, in some ways that I think surprised certainly us in the SEO industry. For example, now we largely use empty robot text, robot.txt files. We used to say with WordPress, oh, ignore this bit, look at this bit, look at this bit. Believe me, there's enough WordPress sites in the world that Google knows which bits to ignore. I've never seen them rank a login page, ever. So, you know, bung your site map in robots.txt by all means, but apart from that, just allow all. Just let them have at it. So how do we figure out exactly how much data Google can actually understand? Well, this is increasingly where we're spending time in Zoom meetings looking at Google Search Console. Because Google Search Console, years ago, you use Google Search Console, whether you're a dev or an SEO, by signing up, adding the sitemap, and then just buggering off and doing something else. We just would forget about it. But increasing, Google's becoming very, very good at telling us exactly what it doesn't understand. And I think barely a week goes by now that we don't have a Zoom meeting with a developer and with a client. Well, actually, we try to keep the clients out, but they're not terribly interested. Where we're trying to solve some kind of weird indexing error in Google Search Console. The biggest challenge being, of course, that Google Search Console is so unreliable as a source of data that even Google says to disregard half of it. But such is our lot as in SEO, and such is your lot as devs. It's the massive contradictions of Google that we deal with on a daily basis. So, because I can't hear you, and because if I was in the room there'd be a lot more to and fro, this talk is actually fairly brief. So out of all of that, I think the things I'd like you to remember that will make a dev happy is core web vitals and data accessibility. Clarity. It's all about clarity. We don't want Google to have to fight and dig and rummage to be able to figure out exactly what it is our clients are doing. It should be clear as day. There should be a load, basically from Google's perspective, there should be a load of clear text that's written really nicely, and the code and all the gubbins should be more or less invisible. I mean, when I first started building websites in Notepad in 1998, we were really excited about using Java applets to make water look like it was dry. Just all this useless stuff that, if I see it now, I think it's kind of cute. And I look back and go, oh, I remember those days. Do you remember hit counters? Put hit counters on a website. And you'd go and look at your local plumber and it'd say, wow, 4 people have looked at the website. Ever. Yeah, so we're well past that now. One of the things we kind of talk about quite a lot in my agency, SEO, especially when speaking to developers, is that we want to democratize code. Now, we very dangerously use the word code as SEOs because we're not coders, but we think it encompasses how we'd like to see the web move forward. You know, we started off with web, you know, the first, I was about to say, trying to think what was before Web 2.0, and it was GeoCities and AOL mostly. Then moved on to Web 2.0. We're like, hey, people can really mess up our websites now because they can come and put their own crap on it. And now, for a while, everyone's been talking about Web 3. I think Web 4 and the future is going to be a lot less SEO and a lot more dev. I think it's going to be, more than ever, it's going to be the rise of the developers in the next 5 to 10 years. And people like me, hopefully, it's a weird thing to say, hopefully people like me will just dissolve into the background. Because with Google's improvements in sniffing out the dog crap, anyone trying to do bad SEO or anyone trying to fool Google will hopefully just... I don't believe that. I'd love to believe that's the case, but hands up anyone who thinks that SEO is actually going to go away. What a difficult thing to ask. No one's going to put their hand up, are they? I wouldn't be offended if you did. I quite fancy being a musician or something. Anyway, so how can SEOs make your life easier? This has been a very one-way street so far. I've been talking about how you lovely people can help people in SEO and can help your clients to rank better, to win at Mr. Google's game, or Mrs. Google. So how can we make your life easier? One thing we really like doing is before a new site project even starts, we'll do the keyword research and we'll build out the site structure for you. We know which words to put where is a simple thing. And we've been doing this more and more over the last few years. Developers will come to us and say, right, we've got a site project, where should all the pages go? And that's the bit we do. And that appears to be quite popular. So what's another way that developers can make the life of an SEO easier? Does anyone in here fully understand Google Analytics GA4? Okay, oh, I can see a few smiles. I don't think no one has ever put their hand up when I've said that so far. So if I can just ask a favour, if between all devs, if somebody could just take responsibility for figuring out setting up goal tracking in GA4, that would just be super. We'd really appreciate that. Thank you. So, what's a good final reason to hug an SEO? Well, it's because if we work together and collaborate and make good things, it's ultimately best for the client. And what's best for the client helps keep us in pizza and beer. So there you go. Thank you very much for listening. Is there questions? Has anybody got anything to say?
One second, so we can see what's going on.
I can't hear you, Alex, in case you're talking to me.
Oh, hello. Yes, I was talking that entire time.
Oh, I didn't hear any of that.
Oh, wonderful. So I actually have a few questions. Sorry, guys. Shockingly, as you can tell, we work together. I'm going to start my questions. So you said about the code to text ratio. I wasn't aware that was a thing. I was just curious. Stuff like what they called page builders like Divi. I'm guessing that's a massive problem then.
I'm not a fan personally. We now, when we onboard like pre-sales conversations with clients, we ask clients to declare if they're using Divi, Beaver Builder. There's another one, Elemental. Just because these things, they put such a chunk of code on websites that basically, you know, if your site's got to render all that stuff first, the actual words on the site are kind of pushed down in order of priority. It's a bit of a weird thing, but Google looks at it and goes, well, that's a lot of code to do very, very little. So it's connected to Core Web Vitals in a way, but the platform, or it's not a platform, I can't think what it's called. The system we like most is, bloody hell, it's gone, Genesis framework. Big fan of the Genesis framework because it's efficient and it doesn't try and be all things to all people. Things like Divi are Microsoft Windows 95 when it came out and went, hey, we can do everything, and you go, wow, this thing can do nothing.
I think there's a few people in this room that don't even remember that, but any questions? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
You can't see me. Hang on.
I'll use my imagination. You look like...
I'm so close. There we go. That was horrifying. Sorry. No. I'll just be a voice from beyond. So it's a hot topic at the moment, but with the rise of like ChatGPT and AI and that, and this is potentially a leading question, how do you see SEO changing or adapting in the rise of ChatGPT and AI and things like that?
There's two sides to this. There's using Jasper, ChatGPT, and now Google Bard for research as a way of looking to see what types of conversations are being had in the world, and then using that to solve kind of blank page syndrome. So from a copywriting perspective, we're also copywriters. ChatGPT can be very interesting just to see, well, how do people feel about these things? What sort of tone of voice can work the best? But the biggest drawback with that is, as I understand it, ChatGPT stopped absorbing the web in 2019. Is that it? Has anyone got something more accurate? So there's two problems.
2021.
Pardon?
2021.
Okay, well, so still 2 years. So it's 2 years out of date. So there's two problems to that. Anything it regurgitates, it's found somewhere else, and it might have mucked around with the text order and changed it to make it pass Copyscape, which is a plagiarism checker that we use. But the other problem with that is it's not going to be up to date. I think if you ask how healthy the Queen is, ChatGPT says she's doing super. The second part of this whole discussion is there's a lot of pearl clutching and people panicking in the world of SEO about people using ChatGPT or other AI to generate articles, to generate copy. And we know that Google isn't that bothered really. Some people in SEO think you'll get penalized. Google, if you're going to get penalized by Google, you already know you're doing something wrong. It's like putting your hand in the fire and going, hang on, it's burning. You know, just don't worry about that stuff basically. But in a few tests that we've done and some other dev agents, SEO agencies, it looks like if you generate articles using AI, Google just ignores them. Literally just it's like they don't exist. So we're not bothering. But in terms of how AI is going to change SEO, we don't know yet. It's useful for research, but in terms of will it change the roles of creatives and developers and writers and SEO people? Yes, because it will make original human thought so much more appealing. I see it as a complete anti-threat. It's going to make people who are creative and can solve problems with human brains much more valuable. Because if a whole load of people start relying on ChatGPT, it's too uncanny valley to sort of really work. High quality writing and high quality coding will always win. I hope. I've got mortgage to pay, so.
Thank you. Who's next? Right. Oh, so okay. Oh, God.
It's like a game of Twister going on now to get to the microphone.
I think it's okay. Yeah, thank you. I'm Alex. It's not a question. I'm doing AI, master's in AI, and I think one of the things devs need to put in place is understanding data storytelling and visualization, how you can actually incorporate that into SEO that will actually help you compete with what Google and any other platform is bringing on board. Yeah, that's just me.
No, I totally agree. That's one of the really exciting things, that we don't quite know where it's going to go yet. But I like in ChatGPT the explain it like I'm 5 thing. You can put in something quite complex and say, explain it like I'm 5. And you can use that as the basis for an article. But as long as you're kind of like looking at it on one screen and writing it on another, if you start like, copying and pasting big chunks of it, that's probably, it's not going to end badly. It's just going to end as a null, just as a, as a nothing. But you're totally right. This is why I'm not going to call it, and I hopefully never will, because we don't know which way it's going to go. It's going to be cool though, I think.
I feel like we need to do another talk just about this at some point.
It's everywhere I go. I get asked about this at the moment.
The irony is our next talk is also on AI, so this is perfectly built up for the next talk. Thank you. So yeah.
Couple of quick questions. Where does structured data and schema.org fit into the cooperation between dev and SEO? And second question, do you know if Google is checking for carbon footprint yet? If not, when will it?
What was your name?
That's it.
What was your name?
Sorry. John.
John, I like the way you think. There's 2 things I really like here. I didn't mention schema in the talk because I got to draw a line somewhere. If I was with you and drinking, I'd probably talk until the small hours about this stuff. But schema, it's become massively more important, I think, in the last couple of weeks. It's schema for anyone. I genuinely don't know where you guys are and who knows what, but schema is a brilliant way to almost put data on your site in a cup that says, "Dear Google, drink this." It's a great way. And when Google started pulling schema data out of websites and putting it on SERPs, on search results, it was another SEO pearl clutching moment. We go, oh my God, no one needs to go to our website. But what we've learned from all search engines, not just Google, is you need to be where the conversation is. I think as well as the web with AI about to have a massive leap forward in the next few years, I think in 10 years we won't be so worried about having our own websites. It's going to become less a point of bringing people to your site. So schema, absolutely love schema. The reason I say I think it's become important in the last couple of weeks is using tools like SEMrush. We keep an eye on, well, to be honest, mostly our clients' competitors to see how they're ranking. And when there's a significant change in the way Google operates, SEMrush basically draws a line on a graph. And we've seen quite a few sites in the last couple of weeks, and there's been a SERP update, like a schema, some sort of schema update in the last couple of weeks. We've seen a lot of our competitors go, just dip a little bit. And the weird thing is, it's almost everyone. It's like a mini Wall Street crash of rankings or something, and it's starting to come back up. But the reason that's so confusing is that rankings are like energy. You can't make rankings. If you put all the sites together, you can't make rankings, you can't destroy rankings. If somebody goes up, someone else is going down. You can't really have everyone going down. That just doesn't make sense. I think that will come out in the wash in the next few days. And your second question, I'm really sorry, I've forgotten, Alex. What was the second question?
Carbon footprint.
Carbon footprint.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I hadn't considered it in context for SEO, but I think knowing the way Google operates, it could well become a ranking factor. And there are thousands of ranking factors, most of which I've tried to summarize with a few points about data clarity and things today. It's certainly something we're very aware of. There's a company I work with here in Ipswich. They're a PPC agency that specializes in reducing the carbon footprint of Google ads and Facebook ads. So it's very much in our awareness, and we're on the B Corp track at the moment, which I think we're going to fail, but we're on a B Corp track, and it's yeah, you're thinking the right way. I like, if you wanted a job in SEO, I'd be kind of consider taking you on there, because it's that way of thinking that's always beneficial in the long run. So yeah, you give me something to think about there. But this is where efficient coding, good hosting, and all of those things I talked about, that's where it all comes in. If you've got a bloated site that the web server have to really put some grunt into, it's going to be less carbon efficient than a really, really nice headless CMS or something.
So we've got time for a couple more questions. Anybody else? Oh, I can ask my second one then. Haha. Sorry, guys, this is my area. So I don't know. This is not necessarily a question, but so you mentioned before about Google Search Console, about all these ridiculous new indexing errors that have come up. Yep. Can you please tell me what the canonical one is? Has anyone else seen it? It pops up constantly now, and I don't know what it means. And it's something about like there's two versions of the site or something, and I don't understand, and it's driving me mad.
You need to be really careful around canonicals. It's
okay.
I said Google never de-indexes sites and never penalise someone. A website, not one I've worked on, but one of my fellow SEOs has worked on, got de-indexed last week because they set their homepage as a canonical of itself, but the developer accidentally put a space in the canonical, which essentially is saying to Google, "Oh, website's dead, and we're proud." So Google removed it from the index. So I would say, Alex, if there's a specific concern, speak to me. Let's chat. It's not a big danger point, but with canonicals, they're really important in e-commerce stores, especially Shopify, and Shopify handles it really nicely, because in Shopify you've got your product and a little bit of information that appears on the product page. You've got that same bits of information on the collection page, and that same bit of information can appear all over the place. So your canonical thing is saying this page is the one true God. This is the source of all information. All those others aren't so interesting. But it's an important one, and to be honest, it's one that it makes my head hurt. Almost as much as there's a Search Console error that Google say, "You've marked this page as no index, so we've not indexed it." Like, that's not an error. That's like Walt Whitman saying, "I am the one who knocks. I am the one who marked it no index."
I'm definitely going to drop you a message. I've got so many more questions like this, but I don't want to bore everyone. So is any more questions before we wrap up? Oh, sorry. I love this. You can't see anything. You can just hear.
Hi, so the question is, how are we doing with AMP? Is that still a thing?
Oh, sorry, no, I'm not dismissing you, but the AMP is a classic example of Google going, hey guys, look, 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 look.
I don't know what AMP is. Could you explain, please?
Yeah, it's the way that pages are it was supposed to speed up how web pages were served by, I think, hosting it on Google, but it messes. How is it exactly handled? It's messing with ads and things like that, if I remember correctly. It's something.
Can you weigh in on this, Andrew?
I didn't hear a word of that, but I'll just get my explanation. AMP was a method of. Have you ever noticed on an iPhone, if you're looking at some web page, it says, do you want to look at reader view? And it gives you like a very simplified version of the page. I mean, that's kind of what AMP is. It's a method of serving a simpler version of a page. And in principle, it's kind of neat and kind of nice because it solves on mobile that problem of there being a massive tech debt just to display a small bit of information. But in reality, the world just got better at building responsive sites. And, you know, good CSS, you know, good styling can remove some of those issues anyway. So it just kind of went the way of WAP, if anyone remembers WAP. No, Alex, you might be too young to remember WAP.
Yeah, sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about.
WAP. Someone else, I'll explain it another time. Hands up who remembers WAP. Excellent.
Okay, so does that answer your question? Yep. Okay, yeah, he's nodding. Okay, right.
Sorry, I didn't want Raspberry answered it.
No, it's great, thank you. And you've got everyone to participate. I loved it. Right, we're going to wrap up now. But first, let's give a big round of applause to Andrew. Thank you. Right.
Alex.
Yeah.
I just want to say I don't do kind of these talks where there's a payoff or, you know, payload rather of saying, hey, I'll send you a PowerPoint presentation or whatever. But if you want to have a chat, ask Alex, and she's got my Calendly link. And I'm as I hope I've made clear, the best SEO work happens when we collaborate with developers. So please just say hello. I get lonely sitting here.
You can also chat to him about music as well. He's a massive muso. Oh, that's the question. You didn't hear that, did you?
I didn't. Go on.
Oh, someone said, could you play us a song?
None of it's switched on at the moment.
Oh, okay. But next time. I should really stop this recording now. There we go. Oh, stop recording.